My name is Griffin Parker with Parker Monuments in Knightdale, North Carolina, and in this video we're going to talk about the top 5 things you should consider before purchasing grave spaces from a monument dealer's perspective. Stay tuned. So the first thing to keep in mind when you're shopping around for grave spaces is what is the headstone regulations for that cemetery. This can be in the form of they require bronze on granite to be flat with the ground. This could be in the form of dimension requirements. There's a cemetery local to us that requires tablets to be 8 inches thick, for example, whereas you see a lot of 6-inch thick otherwise. So there are requirements like width too. It's popular to have width requirements. So you want to get that in writing from your cemetery at the time of purchasing a grave space, because you don't want them to change their regulations on you if you're buying grave spaces ahead of need and years down the line when you're ready to get a headstone. You want that in writing. Number 2, does the cemetery charge fees at the time of installation for a headstone? So this is actually pretty popular, especially for corporate cemeteries. They will have a fee called a foundation fee, an inspection fee, something like that. And they can be substantial. For example, Mont Lawn Cemetery here in Raleigh, they have a $1,499 inspection fee. Now, what does that get you? Well, nothing in that case other than their approval to install the stone. The monument dealer is actually the one that does the installation. Something to keep in mind, that's a substantial fee. Also, if you're purchasing a grave space that is in a section that has a requirement, for example, bronze on granite, keep in mind bronze is not cheap. A lot of people are surprised by the price of bronze, and it's good to get familiar with what kind of headstone you would want to be putting on this plot before you buy the plot, essentially. People are surprised to hear that you can get a very nice granite upright headstone for the same price as a bronze flat to the ground. Something to keep in mind. Location and accessibility. This really applies more for a cemetery that is really hard to get into. If you're buying a grave space that's maybe in the middle of a section and everything is just packed, there's stones in the way, there's things that it's hard to get to your plots. There could be additional charges when it comes to digging the grave space at time of need and also installing a headstone. This is especially applicable if you are shopping for a large stone, for example, a mausoleum. If the monument dealer is providing the mausoleum and we have to rent an extra large crane to reach your plots, that would increase the cost at time of need. Something to keep in mind. Also, for the location, you want to keep in mind, is it in a high crime area? If it's in a high crime area, does the cemetery have, or if it has a history of vandalism, does the cemetery have a history of making it correct, making it right? Number 4, organization. So is the cemetery well organized? Are the lines of headstones, when you look at them, are they going all kinds of different ways? Or some of them going like this, some of them going like that? Do you feel like the cemetery keeps good records? Is another thing to keep in mind. You can kind of walk around the cemetery and get a good feel for that. So number 5, limited retailer options. So it's good to know to talk to the cemetery and say, hey, if I want to get a stone from an outside dealer, if the cemetery sells headstones, there's usually more red tape to get through. Cemeteries that don't sell headstones usually have no problem whatsoever with outside monument dealers. But the ones that sell headstones, they want you to jump through some hoops to be able to purchase a stone from an outside dealer. So keep that in mind. Ask those questions. Is there an additional fee to buy a stone from an outside dealer? More times than you would think, the answer is yes. On top of that, if you are limited to what the cemetery sells, does the cemetery sell a stone that you're interested in? They might only sell bronze even though you won't granite. Something to keep in mind. Too many times we get people coming into our shop confused and upset that they are limited to a bronze on granite, which is more money than they were expecting. And they wanted a traditional headstone and they can't get it unless they sell their plots, which people have done. I mean, it happens. People sell their plots, buy plots somewhere where they can do what they want. So just save yourself some headache, ask these questions, get, as much of this in writing as possible, and you'll be golden. All right, have a blessed day.